The Clippers spanked the Denver Nuggets 120-97. They literally screwed them, no Vaseline, in the words of Ice Cube. It was a beatdown. Initially, there was like a lot of lead changes, but then what happened was the Clippers locked in on defense, and the Denver Nuggets just had no offense, answer offensively. And also, the Denver Nuggets are very predictable. I think they run pick and roll 70% of the time. So that within itself is easy to defend. And people don't just understand. People always wonder why Golden State got past the Rockets when they were, down to them 3-2. When Kevin Durant went out, they beat the Golden State Warriors, beat the Rockets, because all they do is run pick and roll. Denver's offense was very predictable, and the Clippers jammed it at every point, and essentially they blew them out. I mean, at one point they were up by like 30. So this was a beatdown. I know it's just one game, but the way that Denver played the series against Utah, and the way that Utah blundered, Utah really should have been playing the Clippers. That being said, I don't know if Denver realizes how fortunate they are to even be in this series, and they're basically in over their heads. Being in over your head to this point, basically, you're gonna get exposed at every point and corner. I can see this series going 5 games at the most. 6 if Jamal Murray drops like a 50-point bomber, but the Clippers aren't gonna let that happen. And one thing to watch out for is Paul George actually picked up some of his confidence back up. He's playing back to his normal caliber. But then you got Patrick Beverly in there, just the waves of bodies they could throw at you. That was a shellacking. And I don't know if the Nuggets were tired or if they were just mentally exhausted, because physically and mentally is 2 different things, and that could affect your game. So, Celtics versus the Toronto Raptors. The Celtics essentially had the game won. For some odd reason, Brad Stevens instituted the zone, put in Taco Fall, and allowed them to shoot a 3. If anything, you want them to shoot like a hard running 2, not a 3. He outsmarted himself down in the stretch. And the game is too simple for you to be trying to institute all these little quick strategies and, hey, I'm going to do a quasi zone. Because, I mean, it worked for Nick Nurse when he was trying to get the Raptors back into the game. But you guys had the lead. You guys were on point. Everything down the stretch, even though the Raptors made a run and got hot from 3, the Celtics had essentially, with Kemba Walker's amazing play, won the game. With 0.5, you let the guy shoot the 3. And Jaylen Brown, I'm kind of annoyed with him as well, but at the same time, I guess he's just following orders, like running the zone, but only a 3 could beat you. So just pack it, guard the 3, and packing everything else. That's it. So that being said, it's just crazy. It really disturbed me to see like the X's and O's is what make you lose a game, not common sense. A hard contested 2, you'll take that over a wide open 3 with 0.5. And honestly, I didn't even know you could get off a 3 with 0.5, but then I had to remember with Patrick Ewing in the Garden, I think there was one time he got it off with 0.4. So 0.5, I guess, is plenty of time. But I was just severely disappointed in what happened, what took place with Boston, because they could have went up 3-0. But hey, guess what? That makes for a better series for us. Steve Nash hired as coach of the Brooklyn Nets. I can't say I'm surprised at the hiring, because I didn't know Steve Nash was in the running. But I can't say I'm surprised that a player of Steve Nash's caliber got the job. He's a 2-time MVP. He's essentially a coach on the floor. He actually has basketball coaching programs that you can purchase. And on top of that, he is really good friends with Kevin Durant from his stint in Golden State. So that made sense, that whole connection against Steve Nash there. The thing that kind of caught me off guard was the Nets already had a good coach. They just, I think, what happened? They got swept by Toronto. Yeah, they got swept by Toronto. I guess I put a bad taste in everybody's mouth. But the Nets had a good coach anyway, in my opinion. There's been a lot to make about, hey, what about Mark Jackson? What about Sam Cassell? Like, minority coaches and not getting a shot, or Fizdale. They only get the jobs that are like crappy jobs and stuff like that. And it really is true, like, just think about like when Doc Rivers, how he got his job in Orlando, and essentially they weren't really a great team, and then once he got them to be a great team, got coach of the year, and then he got funneled down, and then he goes to the Celtics or whatever. So it is kind of true. I hate to make this an issue about race and stuff like that, and affirmative action in terms of coaching and stuff like that. But it is what it is. I have to really give Stephen A. props for pointing out the inequalities in those positions in terms of head coaches and stuff like that. But I'm also gonna say this. Stephen A. highlighted this as well. Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving signed off on that signing. So they could have said, hey, we want Mark Jackson. We want Sam Cassell. We want so-and-so. They signed off on Steve Nash, a guy with no coaching experience, as opposed to Mark Jackson and stuff like that. And Mark Jackson has other things why he's not coaching the NBA. So that being said, players have the power to hire and fire. They have the power to hire and fire minority coaches as well. So sometimes we can all blame the system as much as we want, but also we can also say hey, some of us aren't working the system to our benefit or benefit of our people. So that's the kind of way that I think that he should look at it. Not necessarily, because to me it kind of sounded like sour grapes when he was talking about Steve Nash, even though he didn't want it to seem that way. It felt like that. It came across badly, to me. But at the same time, I understood where he was coming from. Somebody had to say it. I don't know if that was the time. Maybe the next day you could say it. Hoops Junction, Hoops, comment, subscribe.